I watched your Don't Tell set today. That
thanks
object
for
permanence
it.
is hard. It's such a good line.
Oh, thanks.
Such a good line.
Thanks.
Welcome to The Downside. My name's Gianmarco Soresi. I'm here with fix the cap on this thing. It looks insane.
Sorry.
I'm here with Russell Daniels.
Hi, Gianmarco.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
And we're joined by the great Aparna Nancherla.
Hello. Thanks
Aparna.
for having me.
So I've been wanting to tell this story for. I saw an angry street performer, and I watched the whole thing.
What? Angry by on purpose or
No.
Oh, okay.
That's what I-
Okay.
But for a portion, not sure.
Okay.
So
okay.
I kept going like,
Where? Wait,
well, I just see. I don't want to.
You don't want to say
I don't want to say.
Is
because it might be
their
a small
regu-
enough city that then
Yes.
people know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give other details.
Okay.
And there's no if a detective's listening, it's possible.
Yeah.
But I gotta share
You're
my.
like, I will give his full name and
Well, they can see
physical
the date of
description.
where we're recording this too. So
do we
they
do the
might be
date?
able to put
Oh, do you have a
together-
pen? Do we do the
Oh,
date?
Well, they know
Oh,
they're
good.
around.
It's okay. We're just so street performer. I won't say where. I like street performers because I think it's so interesting.
It's so brave.
It's so
Yes,
brave,
yes.
and it's just like art and function. You have to see the things that they have to do to make a stage in the middle of
yes,
nowhere,
yes.
to maintain that stage,
Yes.
to maintain an audience, to attract,
To break
It's like-
through people just walking to
Yeah,
do real things in their
yeah.
lives.
It's
to be
like doing
oh,
stand-up
stop.
comedy and barking at the same
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And like, how do you do that? So I always watch. I'll volunteer. I'll do the whole thing.
Okay.
Tova and I, we did it in Australia, and it was fun.
Yeah.
He was having a better time. So it's me and my opener named Ty. And we go there, and there's not a lot of people there.
Okay.
There's just a couple, but he's made a stage with his rope, and he's like a juggler type.
A juggler type.
Like he does like you have two sticks and you juggle another stick.
Yes.
Oh,
of
yeah.
course.
What's
of
that called?
course.
No one knows.
I want to say devil sticks meets juggling.
Oh, devil sticks.
Is that devil sticks?
I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe.
I had them as a kid. Like there was a phase
yeah,
of
there
like
was a phase.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Potomac, Maryland, so we're
I know.
close.
I was I was gonna comment on that.
That's not where this street
Okay,
performer was though.
Okay.
That'd be shot if Potomac.
That
Maryland.
would be shocking.
Yeah, someone who just went through another divorce. I could see it. So okay, so first there's not a lot of people, and he's like, I can't tell if he's like that. His character is like he's kind of rude or mean,
Okay.
and I like it
What's
because
he dressed like?
jeans. I have so many videos that I decided not to use.
share, yeah.
But let me like long hair. Looks like how you would picture someone stereotypically who's into Dungeons and Dragons.
So
would
there's
be
not
dressed.
Oh.
There's not
okay.
fully a costume. It's more like
No, more just like kind of a cool guy, divorced dad.
Whoa, wait, these are
whoa.
all very disparate.
I know. I'm seeing a different guy each
Like
with
I
each
feel
thing.
like that should clarify who I'm seeing, but it's getting fuzzier
don't
and
show-
fuzzier.
don't
I
show
won't
the
show, but I
things.
will describe. I'm very bad at painting a picture. Like very terrible. I could never write a book like Tolkien. Okay. So
That's the one
boots, boots like the kind of boots that someone who like dress like their Dungeons and Dragons character.
Okay, I get that.
Oh, okay.
What? How would you describe that hat? Like a
Okay. I almost think like sort of a biker, but not really a biker. Like if you were going to audition as a biker,
Yes.
like in a biker gang. Like if
Yes.
I was auditioning,
you were raised by bikers, but you weren't of that. You were more of a
not
juggler.
even. I think it's more if I was gonna wear a Halloween costume like a
Of
biker.
a biker. Okay.
And you'd be like, that's
okay.
not a biker.
So cosplay, biker cosplay.
Biker
Yeah.
cosplay.
Yeah.
Leather vest, but like over a t-shirt.
Okay.
Of maybe a superhero brand.
Yes.
Great.
Keeping it loose.
Okay.
And his social security number was 512. So he like I'm there and my arms are crossed, but not like in a judgy way.
Right.
I'm high. It's before my shows. It's my day. It's my day to have fun. I'm in it.
Sure.
I'm in it.
Sure.
And he just goes like, uncross your arms. No one's gonna steal your nipples. And I'm like, I like to be talked to. Make me feel.
Whoa.
If you're yelling
You're
at
like
me
a
and it's a
little-
character,
you're like a little
make me
BDSM.
feel. I do.
I like that line too.
Yeah.
Well, he's got him. He's got a lot of these lines. But then he keeps being that mean to everyone. Someone's on the phone, and his line to them is like, "The cops already know I'm here. No need to call." But it has a little anger in it. It's just a little. I can
He's
feel
not
it.
saying like you could say both of those lines and it's fun.
Yes.
But he's saying it and he's a little like.
When I'm on stage, sometimes I'm always going to be like, "Shut the fuck up," and you can feel that it's fun. And then sometimes, "Shut the fuck up," and you can feel something's wrong.
Yeah.
You're like, this isn't about what's actually happening.
Yes.
Yeah. So he brings on 3 people and 3 beats of like this juggling.
Yeah.
One person has a stick, the other person has like a bigger stick, keeping it vague. And then my opener, he gets picked, much to his chagrin, and he has like a pitchfork, let's say, because it's what it was. And he does the stick first, then he does the bigger object, and then he does the bigger object, and he goes like, I hold 4 world records in boat or devils, whatever.
Okay.
And I was like, he kept trying to I don't know what the word would be, but like validate his art by telling us his accomplishments in a way where I was like, no need.
Yeah.
And also, how many people are you competing against for that world record?
Right.
It's great. It's
Probably more
great.
than you think. More than we think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But there was just a lot of like, I mean, the number of times about just coming back from Edinburgh and in a way where I was like, it was one of those
He's
where
trying to recoup his funds.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we're there. We're there. Who are you mad at? We're here.
No, totally.
It's the teacher going, guys, you got to show up on time. And you go, well, the people
we
who need
are
to hear
here.
it, they're not here for this.
Yeah.
So he goes 1 beat, then he does his thing, and I'm cheering, I'm wooing, and then he goes, normally that gets an applause. All right, we're gonna try this again in an hour. We're gonna try this again in an hour. Meanwhile, my opener, he's the 3rd beat. He's standing in the middle of the stage with a pitchfork. He just goes, "You could give the pitchfork back." So he ends it, and I'm like, just do the 3rd beat. Just do the 3rd beat.
You can't not do the 3rd beat.
And it's truly like if I was saying,
That's
I said, knock, knock, who's there? Boo, boo hoo. You know what? We're not gonna do this. I think we'll try again in an hour. Finish.
Wow, that's a funny performance art thing, though.
I
to
know,
be
I
like
was
a character that
like
is like a magician that never does the trick because he's too mad at the
Yeah.
crowd.
Sure.
You know, like
Like the blue balls performer, he always leaves them.
never does the trick because he just is so
yeah.
mad and can't focus on anything else other than how bad the crowd is.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I want to make this a stage piece, and I want you to do it.
Okay.
I want to set up a play where you think it's a street performance,
Yeah.
but it's like really you see a man have a breakdown on stage.
Yeah.
So he says, "We'll try again in an hour." So I say to Ty, "We're coming back in an hour." I want to.
He literally says, "We'll try again in an hour."
Yeah. So we go back an hour later. He's 2 minutes in, and on stage are 3 people holding the 3 things. So he's going now.
Okay.
But again, he's angry, and he keeps so much of it is about
Can't
telling
believe you went
people.
back.
Oh, I went back, and I had my phone this time. And at some point, he said to me again, he goes, put your phone away. If you applaud with that, you're going to break your screen. And I'm pretty sure insurance doesn't cover stupidity. And it's like, it's not,
He doesn't want
the vibe isn't right.
No.
The vibe isn't right. And so he has a little girl there, and she's going to throw the stick to him. And he has his stick, and he's commanding her, like, so when I go like this, you throw the stick. Don't worry, I'm not going to hit you. I'm not your dad. And the audience goes, whoa. And he goes, all right, listen, my dad hit me all the time, and I'm fine.
Oh.
Now, it's all wrong. And they says, little girl,
He screams on the
we know
street.
your dad doesn't hit you, right? Say yes. It's just like every beat is wrong.
Oh my God.
Every beat is wrong. And he's just, it's constant, just the constant like clap. And I get why he needs the people to clap, because he needs the noise to bring more people in. This is part of it.
Yeah.
But he's just doing it in such a way. He goes, guys, stand on the rope. I didn't have to tell the people in Edinburgh that. And I'm like, well, buddy, you're not in Edinburgh anymore. I don't know what to tell you. Why are you mad at us? We're here. And okay, so I want to. He keeps bringing up. He has a kid, and he keeps bringing up the kid, obviously to get. Give him money. Sure, that's great. Yeah. But he goes like this. He goes, and I have a X-year-old son. And if that offends any of you, you can leave. And I'm like,
what?
Who does that offend?
Wait, just having a son?
I think maybe as a single dad. Wait,
Wait,
what?
did he say he was
I think he goes like I'm a single dad and I have a son. I'm not saying the ages if that matters. I have a 5-year-old son, and if that offends anyone, you can leave. And I'm like, I don't think anyone.
Because why?
I honestly, I think there's one thing both political parties could get behind right now. It's that you have a son and you haven't killed him. I guess
Yeah.
is that the other option? And you haven't abandoned him.
Also, he has such a weird gauge of what you would be offended by.
Yeah.
Because then he also did a joke about domestic violence.
Yeah.
Well, he did it. Domestic violence, and I wish I could remember the other two.
I love
but he
that-
did a 9/11 joke, and then he did
A
a trans
9/11
joke. He did a trans
Oh
joke
my
too,
God.
and it was just like, and it was like, it was a light one, but it was one of those where it's like, why,
Yeah,
why,
Yeah.
why? It's the
unnecessary.
juggling of the boat or
Must
and
have
it-
worked in Edinburgh when he was. He was workshopping
people in
all
Edinburgh
the
loved it.
people love domestic violence in Edinburgh. All those things that worked there. He's so frustrated. It doesn't work with an American audience.
And
Oh, yeah. Was he American?
he was not American.
Oh.
Further
I don't know
north.
why that's so important.
Further
to me.
north.
Oh, okay.
Further Canadian.
Okay.
And apparently someone told me later they said Canadian street performers are mean. I'm sure that's a broad brush. We might have some listeners that are Canadian street
Way
performers.
in Canadian.
Wow.
But I want to emphasize, like, he was talented. Like what
Okay.
he was doing. I'm not the joke writing. I wasn't like, hey, let's get you on at midnight, but like after midnight. But he was the juggling was cool.
Okay, so because the juggling seems like the actual act,
Yes,
and then the maybe the people skills needs
people
to catch
skills need
up.
some work. and so then he asked for more volunteers, and I'm pretty stoned, but of course I volunteer. And he's doing like a thing. There's a bed of nails.
Oh God.
And-
What?
And so like we don't, but he also has a chainsaw too. And he's like, he's doing a chainsaw juggling, and there's this. So I just volunteer, and I was scared. I think I got in my head. I got that.
Rightly so.
I got that stone thought in my head where basically, ultimately, where we were going to go. First, he talked about the bed of nails, and he talked about how it was like he took off his vest and the back of his shirt is missing, and it's because not because he couldn't afford it. It wasn't that. He said like in India to do this with a shirt on is considered like sacrilegious. But he's not allowed to be bare where in the city that we were performing in. So he does, the half.
He did a workaround.
But then meanwhile, he says, I've only done this once with a shirt on, and it was in some other country where I was the first street performer ever, and they paid me handsomely for it. And when he said that, I said, oh, buddy, mixed messages. You got the son. We got to give you money, and now you're saying you're paid
Right,
handsomely.
right.
We got to get this act together.
I don't know if we needed any of that information.
No.
Like
of
we
it.
would have been fine with the half shirt just going through the trip. We don't need the legality of
No.
it in that city
Yes.
and like the where it's welcome.
But that's the thing.
shirtless.
There was this constant. He said multiple times. And this is at the second show. He said, "This is the smallest show I've ever performed for." And I was like, "Buddy, I was at the one that got canceled." No, it's not. I've seen a smaller show today that you performed for.
Oh man.
And so we go up there, and we're supposed to like, he's going to lie in the bed of nails, and a girl's going to walk. First, he had us pick him up and put him onto the bed of nails.
You picked him up.
Oh yeah, and I was not ready for it at all. And we got him on there, but I think we got him too far leaning my way, so we had to like pick him up. Like
What did
he's
he
like,
say when he's move?
knees over. And so then we pick him up again. Now I'm leaning over a bed of nails,
God.
and my shirt's on, and it's apparently that's sacrilegious, and so it's very stressful. And then we're supposed to hold this girl. It's her volunteer. We're supposed to hold her hand, arms out.
She's gonna walk on him.
Yes, but before this, he's
Oh.
doing chainsaw juggling, and I had this intrusive thought. I go, he's having a breakdown. We're witnessing him on the day he breaks down. My arm is like this. He's gonna cut off my arm,
Oh,
and I'm stoned. So this thought is, and it's very important that my arm is straight to hold this girl over the thing, and I'm having this thought of like, and I lose my arm, and I'm like planning. I'll dive this
Yeah.
way. You're
Yeah,
planning. How am I
yeah.
gonna get out of this?
He's gonna cut off your arm so you can get to your nipples.
he's playing a long game.
So he talks to the girl. He does a quick like, so you're gonna walk over. He doesn't want to give it away. He says you're gonna walk over a pillowy substance. Are you okay with that? And he's like clearly doing the legalese language,
Yeah,
like if she falls, which she totally could.
Oh.
All these things you remember when you're younger, you're like, oh, it's safe. And then when you get older, you go, no, it's
No.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
And we carried him over. But then at some point, we're carrying her over, and there was a woman filming this whole thing. And part of me was like, maybe I want footage of all of this. And she's starting to pack up to go. And she's been filming the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I need to indicate to her to wait while I'm holding this girl with one arm over the nail bed. So I'm just like,
Yeah, why is she
Yeah.
packing up now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But ultimately, girl made it over. My arm's still here. And I want to emphasize again, he was good at what he did.
Just was having.
He was having a bad day.
I don't know though. Seems like yeah.
Yeah,
we don't
know
it does
how his
seem
Edinburgh
a little
trip
bit like
was.
it's a part of his act a little because it seems like it was so in there.
He might have had a lot like riding on Edinburgh, and then like
Or he's jet lagged.
gets back, and it's
Oh.
like maybe it didn't. That's a lot of money
Yeah,
and time and
yeah.
effort
I just think you cannot win an audience's favor
by being
by
mean to
talking
them.
about all your previous
No,
accomplishments.
no.
It never works.
Well, it's the
No.
same thing with comedians too. When you're like seeing a comedian not do well, and they're like, they start talking about how like it's your fault, and like it's
Yeah.
other audiences have like
that'll win him over.
that was and then you were like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like
Yeah,
we've
it's
laughed at other people in the lineup tonight. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
Yeah.
it's that thinking that's like, oh, it's never gonna work.
You ever see Richard Pryor's son perform at the Apollo?
No.
So he did, and he's not a comic. And
He's
he
not
was,
a comic at all?
I mean, he's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
comic. He's performed 10 times, but
Okay,
he starts getting booed. He's doing like some rough Trump Putin material.
Okay.
Just some rough impressions where you don't
Of
have the
both of them?
impression. Yeah, and it's a
Oh.
phone call, and it's like, "Hey, baby, how are you?" Huge, like just like we're talking rough.
Wait, which one was,
That was-
which?
I know. I couldn't tell.
Can I be honest? I started as Trump, and then I said,
Yeah,
"Well,
I
I
was
don't
like-
have a
and
Putin,"
then you were like,
so I just did two
"Judge."
Trumps. I did two Trumps.
You did two drums. I was like, wait a
Putin
second.
talks
Yeah.
like-
And so he starts getting booed, and then at some point he goes, "Do you know who my father was?"
oh,
No.
This
See,
is-
that feels scripted to me because
Yeah.
it's so.
So bad.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.
Welcome to The Downside. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. If you're a fan, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. Bonus episodes, 2 every month, early access to episodes, commercial free, and subscribe to the Spotify, even if you watch, just for fun. Help us get those ads. Aparna, I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
You're like, I started comedy in 2017,
Mhm.
and there's just like there's a certain degree of like people I knew as comedians before I started
Yeah.
who still have that like glow of like, oh my God, like it's just still is cool.
yeah.
And I'm the biggest BoJack fan in the world.
Oh.
Is it because you're in a recording booth alone for most
Yeah.
of it?
Yeah.
Is it a weird thing? Like, do you feel a part of it? Or is it like, I just saw everyone at a couple press events over the years?
I mean, not even that. Because I was in New York. Most of the cast was in LA. So I would
Oh.
record just like in a little booth with the director, Raphael. And then table reads, I would just call in. So that would feel even more
God.
surreal.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I never did any like press or anything. So it almost feels like a weird dream that I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, wait, I guess I'm on the show. And, obviously it's a show that a lot of people like love and like deeply resonate with. And yeah, I'm always like, they're always like Hollyhock. And I'm like, yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Does anyone ever record together anymore at all? Or is that,
I
are those
do a
days
voice
over?
on another show on Fox called, not another show on Fox, but a show on Fox called The Great North. And we just started doing group records again
Is it
with
fun?
whoever's available. And it's so much more fun.
So much.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
you can like
Imagine.
play off of each other. You can just like hear people you love being funny. Yeah, it's a fully different experience than recording alone, obviously.
It's like, maybe it was Ian McKellen. I think if he was Lord of the Rings. I think it was Lord of the Rings. And he was doing like a bunch of scenes where he
Yeah.
had to just do it to tennis balls. And apparently he was on set. He
Oh.
started crying. And he was just like, this is not what I wanted to do. This is not what acting
Especially
was.
tennis ball.
It's really funny to imagine him in that costume crying, like just like sadly on a stoop, like just like fully dressed like a wizard, like so depressed.
So you grew up in McLean,
Hmm.
and how
I
far
didn't
is that?
realize you were from Potomac.
Yeah, it's Potomac sucks. I've never written one joke about Potomac.
What do you write about Potomac?
There's nothing. It's boring.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of miserable. It's like a proof that money doesn't buy happiness. That
Oh,
should be
sure.
the slogan of Potomac, Maryland. Proof that
Have
money
you
doesn't.
ever watched Real Housewives of Potomac just for?
What I've been told is that
Yeah.
no one in Potomac's would sign off on that show, so everyone in the
They'll
show is
live
from
in
Baltimore.
Oh
I've heard that there's no one from Potomac on that
my
show.
God.
That's not the
That is-
Potomac.
How
I
far is
knew.
Potomac, Maryland from like Washington, D.C.?
Like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
it's-
Baltimore's
it's-
like
is it
Baltimore's.
the-
I went to Baltimore 3 times growing
Is it
up. It's
the
not
like
a
rich suburbs of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Got it.
What's
Yeah.
McLean like?
McLean is also like a pretty rich suburb, I would say. It's like upper middle class.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. A lot of like DC people, diplomats.
I mean, I like performing in DC, but I
Yeah. DC audiences are great. That's where I
Mhm.
started.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you were born in McLean.
I was born in DC. Yeah.
In
I
DC.
grew up in McLean. Yeah.
And your parents, they immigrated from India in the 70s?
Mhm. Wow.
Yeah. Where did they go to DC originally?
My dad kind of lived all over the US. I think he was like in Baltimore, then he was in Texas, then he was in Arkansas, and then sort of ended up in DC. And then I think my mom joined him at some point, but because he was here first and then they got married and she came over.
He was here first.
Yeah.
How long?
Maybe just like a year or two.
Uh-huh. And they're both doctors.
Mhm.
What kind of doctors?
My dad's an anesthesiologist and my mom's an endocrinologist.
Now, anesthesiology, I feel like, is that something that people make fun of as doctors?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because they have access to a bunch of hard drugs.
Is their, and you may be biased, is their job just as complicated? Or do they have that, is their main task to put people under before
Yes.
surgery?
And then kind of like make sure.
It's high risk.
Yeah, it's
Like,
high risk.
Yeah, because you're like putting people under, and you know.
Because when I was a kid,
monitoring
I
it.
sort of thought what you thought, where I was like, you're putting people to sleep and that's all you do? Like,
Yeah.
You have to
What
monitor
else?
everything to like make sure during the
yeah.
thing that they stay under and then
Yeah.
don't go too far under.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm familiar with the whole.
I'm just saying.
But okay,
But yeah, I guess there's a like stereotype that they are all like, abusing.
or
drugs.
is there like
Oh.
a thing? I feel like it was in college once where it was like people they choose to be that because it's good money. Maybe it's just like a more
Yeah, it's good.
It's good money,
direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, McLean. Have you been put under before?
I've had surgery one time. I had jaw surgery. So
Yeah.
that was maybe like a 4-hour operation.
To me, I've had one.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, I got my appendix out.
Right. But you were a kid.
Yeah, I was 12.
It's a scary. It was
It is scary.
it was so scary that I think the second time is going to be a lot worse for me
Yeah.
preparation wise because it was the most horrifying
I
experience.
got my
of entire
tonsils
life.
out too. I think they do that too for that.
But did they?
I think so. I remember being asleep and then awake.
What was the scariest part for you? Because for me, I was just like, oh, I'm just not going to wake up again. And do I have all my affairs in order?
Sure, that part's pretty scary. I don't know if I need more, but no, I'll tell you the part that was shocked me is
Yeah.
I thought like my friend Rob came, an old college friend. I thought it'd be like, all right, love you, buddy. All right, 199. No, it's I love you, buddy. Wheel
Oh,
you
yes.
alone. You're now
Yes.
alone.
Yeah,
they wheel you into a room. You're just wheeling, and then you look up, and there was this lights like a dentist
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
And it's so, and you're in a chamber that could be used for torture. And there was machines like something was moving around me, but and I
Yeah.
started sobbing. And a nurse,
Oh.
and I don't know if she had any other job, but she just started rubbing my chest and just was like, "It's okay, it's okay."
Yeah.
And then eventually I'm asleep. You know that you feel it a little bit of cold,
Yes.
and then that's it.
And did you feel like I felt like I was asleep for 2 seconds, and then they were like, "You're done."
Yeah, it was one of those things I don't even remember.
Yeah.
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 Did you? If I had a dad who was an anesthesiologist, I'd say you do it.
Wait.
You do it. You do it for my surgery.
That's too much pressure.
No. Well, it was my dad's hospital where I had the surgery, but then I was like, obviously, you're not going to do my anesthesia. That's weird.
Why?
Because too much pressure.
Too much pressure.
No, the right amount of pressure.
No, you want
exactly.
No, you don't want
need a
like
lot
someone.
of pressure.
You don't want someone nervous.
No.
Or like, oh, this is my daughter. You know, you want someone that's like, just another day. You know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know,
Just another day.
I don't want someone like
Another day.
shaking and like doing it. You know, it's so much
But
pressure.
I do get your point in another way because it is his colleague, and it's like if you fuck with my
Yeah,
daughter.
that's true. Yeah.
But I will say, when I woke up, you have a little clicker for your pain meds,
Yes.
and he kept being like, "You gotta push this more."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was pushing it all the time when I.
But
went
he was like,
Pexel.
he
I
was
didn't
like,
have
"Come
one
on."
of those.
Yeah, it was morphine.
And you feel the body go.
Not
"Ah."
immediately.
Not immediately. And it prevents you from like overdosing. Because sometimes I remember
Right.
I was in the hospital for a week, which is a very long time for
yeah.
appendicitis. But I remember like pushing it and being like, they would be like, you can't, like you've had enough. You know what I mean? Like
We're cutting you off. Last call.
I am thankful that I had it at 12 because I was not scared. I mean, looking back now, my parents were terrified.
Right.
And I had no thought in my head that maybe I could die. You know what I mean? Like there was not. I was like, oh yeah, this seems like crazy. You know, like But yeah,
I bet you though that if you did a study and you said percentage of people who died being put under anesthesiology, and you compare that random doctor versus doctor who was partners with the father of the patient, that I bet you the number would make you want to throw up because you'd go, well, this is the only way to have surgery. I now need to own. I mean, truly though.
No, you're right.
It's
you're
not.
right.
When you go to a hospital for a long enough time, you go, oh, this is their workplace, and this guy's in a bad mood, and this guy's kind of
Totally.
forgetful.
Yeah.
And
There's gonna be a doctor like that street performer who's like, when I was at Bellevue, everyone loved what I did.
and you know what he probably does?
Yeah.
He probably does take your nipples.
yeah, yeah.
And then do you remember it?
Endocrinologist.
Endocrinologist.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's the endocrine system, which is a lot of glands. It's like your thyroid, your pancreas, a lot of hormonal stuff. Like my mom's specialty is diabetes, but also a lot of like metabolic disorders, hormonal disorders.
And what is she? Is she prescribing stuff?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Like managing people's conditions.
Who's based on living with her? Whose job was harder?
My dad's hours are more intense because the hospital, the shifts are just longer.
Mm-hmm.
But then my mom had a private practice. So then it's like you're kind of always on the clock because people are like, I need a refill or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any hypochondria?
No, because I feel like I grew up where my parents were always like, you're fine. Like I see people who are way worse than you. Like, you're not sick. Go to school.
Sure.
Yeah.
How old were you when you got the jaw surgery?
I was like in my 20s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't have any surgeries as a kid. I didn't break any bones.
You didn't break any bones.
Mm-mm.
What were you doing? You getting out? You doing
I
sports?
was a scaredy cat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was an indoor kid.
What was your first broken bone?
I broke my ankle in 5th grade.
Okay.
I fell down a slide. I was trying to walk down a slide.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
fell.
Like being a goofball? Like
Yeah. And it was at like a party where there wasn't a lot of kids. It was like my parents were at a party. There were adults. And I was like kind of like me and like one or two other kids that were there. And there was a playground thing. And I fell and I laid there for like a long time thinking like,
do you think your parents were finishing a conversation? They would be like,
and like this, I remember this little girl was like, are you okay? She was asking me a lot of questions. I was like, I'm in a lot of pain.
Oh.
And she was like, finally she went and told the party that
you didn't
I
cry? You're
wasn't
just
getting up. No, I was like, when you're
probably
in
in
like so much
shock.
pain and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I've never experienced this kind of pain and you can't stand on something. And so, just laying there. And then, so finally she went and told people that I couldn't walk. And then they left the party and helped me. We had to go to the hospital.
man, that's got to suck as a parent so bad to just be like, what happened?
Yeah. I think I
You
told the
walked
story
down the
one time
slide?
though in 5th grade. It was right before we like graduated from 5th grade to go to 6th grade. So I had to be on crutches. And I remember one time we were going to, I think like practice like our moving up day ceremony.
Yeah.
And they'd let me leave early and take the elevator because I was on crutches. So it took a long time. And they had just like waxed the floor.
No.
And I'm like going down and I get to the elevator and both crutches went out and I fell on the floor and like was like both crutches went flying in opposite directions. And I was just like on the floor. And then my whole class like walked by on the way to the auditorium as I was like laying on the floor and the teacher's like, Russell, oh my God. And like bring me my crutches.
Gosh.
Oh my God.
I feel like truly you have no dignity as a child.
None.
No dignity.
Oh.
So you were a shy kid?
Yeah.
And then your mom wanted, did your parents go, oh, you're shy, you
I
need
think
to get out
they just
there?
wanted me to be, because I was shy, but I was also like really scared of everything. I had a lot of anxiety. So I think my mom was just always trying to find ways to kind of like push me out more into the world, like get me out of the nest.
In McLean, were there other first generation immigrants from India, or was it?
It was pretty diverse. I mean, I think because there's like a lot of diplomats, there's a lot of just international. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you started what, you took a speech class?
Public speaking class.
Public speaking class.
Yeah.
Part of school?
No. My mom just found it in the like community center.
For other
guy.
kids.
No.
No, you're with
It's
adults.
for adults.
Oh wow.
How old were you?
11.
Wow.
Were you like, cool, let's do this, or were you like, please don't make me go?
I think my mom had like some of the other ones, like she wanted me to be an ice skater. And I was like, okay, well, public speaking, at least I like have no mobility issues. I can just sit in a room.
Could you ice
Like-
skate at all, or was this a total fantasy?
Yeah, I took some lessons,
Okay.
but yeah, it was not my forte.
Yeah, my dad would have loved it if I did sports.
Mm.
He held on. He kept going like, yeah, you love football. He kept saying to me like, you love football.
You don't have a body for football, you know? You're
Yeah, I
so
guess
skinny
not.
and tall. Like it's like
Right.
in basketball, I feel
yeah,
like you would have been
basketball.
perfect.
Yeah. No, listen, we tried.
Men's
We tried.
volleyball. Men's volleyball.
Oh yeah.
Would've been
Men's
great.
volleyball. I
Yeah.
don't think we had I don't think my high school had a men's volleyball.
We did.
Oh yeah, volleyball is not, I guess, in all high schools.
It was like I went to a private school.
Yeah.
We had a private school in McLean?
I went to weirdly enough, the Potomac School
Really?
in McLean. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's a private school.
That's a private school. Yeah.
And then you went to public after that?
yeah, I went to a magnet high school.
I don't know. Sometimes I wish I had gone. I don't know. There's times I had like a good theater life because of
Yeah.
private school, but I also think I was coddled in a way that didn't prepare me for life.
Oh.
But I don't know.
Was it a very small school?
The first was like, yeah, I mean, I think comparatively, probably 60 something kids in the
That's
grade.
tiny.
And it was like a school, like great arts and old Christian echoes. Like we did
Oh,
the Christian
sure.
prayer and there was a cross at the
Sure.
assembly. But also like, we had an openly gay teacher and
Yeah.
but there was also occasionally controversy if he talked about it. But it was still good.
Right,
It was still
right,
good. And then I
right,
went to
right.
Georgetown Day School in DC for
Oh
high
my
school.
gosh.
And that was like cool, liberal. They did a mock election once and one person voted for Bush in the whole high school.
Oh my God.
That's-
wow.
That's not going to prepare you for the real world at
That's
all.
wild.
No way.
So that speech class.
Yeah.
Did you like it? What was it like?
I think it felt weirdly like I think it was my first foray into like understanding how stand-up works, because it is like when you're writing a speech and presenting it to people, there's just like a measure of control you have that I think felt better than like, talking to a stranger at a party where it's like, what you're going to
Yeah.
say, how to deliver it. Like I liked that part of it, whereas it felt like a script for
Yeah.
how to interact with. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Someone I did my Silver Lining show here, and someone after commented as I was talking to people after the show, they're
Yeah.
like, "You're so good at that," and I'm like, "It's so crazy because if I am." I've never been a social person. I've
Yeah,
never been a party,
yeah.
but in that role, I know exactly what we're doing.
Yes.
You're here. I just want you to feel like we had
Yeah,
a moment, and
yeah.
like I know exactly what's happening.
Yes.
But socially, I'm a nightmare. It's a disaster. I'm quiet. I'm shy.
Yeah.
I'm a phone guy. Did you have a final presentation for the speech class?
I think so. I don't remember what the topic was, but I was a bad student in that, like, I would always write my speech right before class.
Mm-hmm. Was it like pick a point of view, or was it like?
Yeah. It would be like, talk about your 3 favorite movies or something like that. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the other adults in that class? Do you remember them being like?
I think they were all like, office employees that were told to like work on their presentation skills or whatever. Like, I think they were probably like, because my sibling was also in the class, they're probably like, why are there kids here?
Yeah.
Like, I would have been pissed if I was an adult and I was like, why are there kids in my class?
I'm paying good money for this.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to this kid talk about
I would have just my
what
3
their
favorite
are.
movies would be really scary, and I try to scare the kid out of the class.
Yeah.
No, I mean, clearly people need you. Sometimes you'll see someone publicly speak and you go, oh, I guess you do need a class.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even like now with the election coming, people are like, when you watch certain politicians speak, you're like, oh, this really is a skill.
It's so shocking because if a politician does like mid,
Yeah.
people are like, oh my
I
God,
know.
what an
I
incredible
know. What
performance.
orator. Yeah.
It really is astounding
Yeah.
how low the bar is. And then you'll see something like Jesse Jackson.
I know.
And you'll go, oh, how did you not take over the world?
Right.
You're an incredible speaker.
Well, even just like realizing like when you have that kind of charisma, when you talk, like, yeah, exactly. You could like easily form a cult overnight.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Trump he's a good.
But I'm like, is he a good speaker?
Is he? I think.
Well, he's.
I
if
think
you
the thing
make
is,
anyone do
he's
4 hours.
Sometimes
you're gonna
he's
get rambling.
Sometimes he's funny. Like sometimes there's like a thing he does that's like that's funny. But I think that lately, especially, it's like all over the map.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild. It's like.
But there's that
whoa.
video where someone just got a video of him and he points to someone and he goes,
Oh,
and
so
and
funny.
you see it and you go like, I don't know, man, something about you is really charming. Like
Yeah.
it's horrible to say. It's horrible to say, but he looks at someone and goes, and it's so. First of all, it's so flamboyant in a
Yeah.
way where I'm
Well,
like,
that-
I don't
yeah.
understand how
that
you
and the-
became the head of this.
He's
That-
fully a Disney villain.
Yeah. That and the
Yes.
the like the putting his middle finger to the
Someone flicks him off on the opposite end of the glass,
and
and
he just
put
like put his thing like this. Like he put his middle finger on the glass like this. It's so funny.
But I think that's probably why. I think that's probably why it really pops in that atmosphere, because that atmosphere is so heteronormative, and
Yeah.
so there's not a lot of like fun
No,
sassiness.
no.
And then he comes in there and he goes, "Sure, I'll take up all your views, and fine, here's a little sass for you. You guys have really been depleted on sass. Let me give you a
Is
little."
he doing cabaret?
Wait, I just thought of the opposite of you taking class with all adults is one time I was in a UCB class and there was an old man in the UCB class.
Oh, I love when
And
there's an older person.
Usually, yes, but this guy, it was a writing class, and all of his sketches were
no.
so dark in a way that you would see the teacher try to be like, okay, and the one I remember the most was it was like a parody of like a real estate show where they're showing the house, but the whole thing was that the real estate agent wanted to fuck the kid in the house, like was a pedophile. And every joke was like every like beat ended with like the real estate agent being caught like trying to like grab the kid. And we got to the end of it and like we were all, they make the actors read it. They make the people in the room read it.
Right.
So we're all reading it and we're all like, hope there's no footage of this anywhere. Hope no one's recording this. And I saw the teacher
Who did you play?
I saw the teachers years later. I played the little boy.
No.
That was just like, no. Like
Which is probably the best role you could have got.
Yeah, just the one that just keeps saying, no, please don't.
Did he play the real estate person?
No, he wrote it, so he was just like listening.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, I saw the teacher years later, and I was like, hey, I have to ask you if you remember. And she was like, yeah, like before I even like said the sketch what it
Oh,
was,
yeah.
she remembered because it was so disturbing. It was so wild. Anyways,
That
I'd love
makes
to see that.
think of like when you're a young comedian and you're going for shock value.
Yes,
and
yes, that's
and
what it
he
was.
just like didn't find comedy until later, but it's like, oh no, you
no,
can't.
and she
have
tried to
that
be like,
now.
well, this is just upsetting. Like you gotta like dark is funny if you can find like what. But it's like and he was just like, this is what I want to put. Like he was like very he was very aggressive.
He's
and
like,
very,
I will not compromise my vision.
pedophile real estate agent is like, I'm gonna die on this hill.
I want to see the actor who had to play the real
I
estate person just being like,
know.
Oh,
well, this could be a library or the kid fucking room.
yeah. Oh man, it was so dark.
Oh,
That
And it was
is
like he was an
so
author or
dark.
something, and he was like trying to like
he was an author.
he was trying to I forget why he was there,
but it's such the wrong, because like when you start comically, you go to that because you need something that's it's a big turn. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But then you add to that the darkness that comes with being closer to death than birth. And being an older
Yeah,
person, and it's like you're
yeah.
gonna get some of the most monster shit you've ever seen in your life.
yeah.
Oh man!
Wow.
If you told me my dad like took a sketch writing class, I'd be like, I'd have to stop it. I mean, who knows?
You'd stop doing sketches. All
Would
day.
would your dad want to take a sketch writing class?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he always says he has this idea. He's like, I want you to write this movie. It's called My Wife's Boob Job, and that's it. That's all he gives me. And I guess I'm supposed to take it from there. And I'm like, that's not even a full log line. That's what about the wife's boob job? But he's like, that's as far as he gets.
Okay.
But he's like brought it up, I mean, for years and
I like-
years.
Wow.
In theory, you're
Years.
writing the movie
Right.
about your mom, and so, but like it would be called My Wife's Boob Job.
No, but I think it's about my former stepmom. It's about multiple
Oh, I
women that
see,
my
I see.
dad has bought boobs for.
You're writing as if you're your dad.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just like
It's
the
like
grievances of
portraits of many women
Yes.
through the lens of the boob job.
yeah.
Yeah.
That makes it sound a little bit more feminist than I think the final product will be. I think it's more like, oh, you want the shoes? I just got you the tits. That's, I imagine, the biggest joke of the movie.
Right.
Every new
right.
character, it starts off like showing who they are and be like, and then after they get the boob job, he's like, yeah, that's
Yeah, there definitely is
he's
that
like,
that
yeah,
sequence.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sequence where he's with the doctor and he's like showing like the cup size. He goes,
Oh yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
a bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely one where he puts them in his and he goes,
Oh,
Oh,
God,
that's a
yeah.
fun. Yeah, just seeing the montage,
Yeah.
I'm like, this movie writes itself.
my dad, he broke his wrist and I saw him like anesthesia or post anesthesia.
Yeah.
And he kept talking about like, he
Oh,
loves
no.
heels.
Okay.
He loves heels. And he's like he always goes
Like the shoe or like
heels, like
an
women
actual
in
heel.
heels. Oh no, with the shoe.
Okay.
Not like
Love that little.
I love that little
part.
little
of the
doctor,
Oh,
a little
yeah.
big around the heel.
get under these heels.
But then at some point in his high rever, he was like, I'd wear heels. I'd wear like it just like it opened up and I was like,
Whoa.
there we go. There we go.
Okay.
Your part of your misogyny is tied to something you might actually like to try, but there's no room in this world. It felt like I got a little
He
peek.
wants to put on the heels.
Maybe.
I mean, high heels were originally a man's shoe. They were for riding horses.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
to hook into the little whatever where
And
your
then
feet.
and
go.
then they got off the horse and said, "Hey, your ass looks really good too." And you go,
yeah.
functionality
Yeah,
inspires fashion.
They were like looking really.
Were you edgier when you started comedy, when you first started?
No, I think there's a few jokes that I'm like, I probably wouldn't have told that anymore. But I think that was just from doing bar shows when I started and being like, all right, here's one for you guys.
Yeah.
Because clearly you do not like what I have to say. But yeah, not really. I didn't really go the shock route. I think I went maybe overly weird where I was just, it's like, is it a joke?
Sure.
Just a thought I had that I thought was great.
And you, I started I really started comedy like at LOL Comedy Club. And so I felt
okay.
I like it just like bad audiences where I
Yeah,
just had to
yeah.
learn how to kill.
Yeah.
Or just functionally
Yeah. Like keep
kill.
your head above water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I just go like, I don't even know if I would have made it in the weirder world, or like I'm always amazed, how do people come from the kind of more alt version to ultimately figuring out still keeping your weirdness but being functional.
Yeah. It's a weird line.
Yeah.
I mean, I think sometimes it is like when I do like, you know, certain club environments, they are like kind of like, okay, but what? Like, yeah, I can tell there's like a little bit lost in translation.
Sure.
But I think it's kind of like I'm like, that's okay. Like, that's okay that I don't fully translate to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess you're not on Twitter anymore.
I am like, I guess erratically in the way people are like, is she here? I don't know.
Sure.
She remembers the app once a month.
As someone who's so good at Twitter and as text jokes and stand up, I'm just curious. We don't get too deep into, but I am curious. What's the difference between writing a joke on Twitter or a text-based tight joke and like stand up? Because I know so many people who are incredible at Twitter, and I go like, why can't you just figure out which ones to string together to make stand-up work? But you have the ability to do both.
I think Twitter kind of taught me how to condense stuff, because I think I'm naturally long-winded, or like I overwrite, and so stand-up teaches you to do that too. But I think especially when you have like that character limit, you really have to be like, what is a joke from point A to point B? Like, what's the fastest way to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I feel like with stand-up you can meander a little bit more. You can kind of like be a little more conversational with it. So I think they feel like different skills to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just always amazed when there are like great joke writers on Twitter or wherever now, and they can't seem to translate it. And I almost want to be like, oh, let me just show me your tweets and let me tell you which ones are going to work or how to rearrange this.
Yeah.
Where there's a shock to it.
Right. I also feel like with stand up, you kind of have to have a vibe too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's hard with comedy writers, where it's like they have a very sharp mind and like really good at crafting jokes. But then when they're on stage, maybe they're not necessarily like able to figure out like their vibe.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your first open mic, when was it? What year?
I did my first open mic, I think, when I was 20. So I think that was actually like in DC at like a Best Western off the Beltway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was this club called Wiseacres.
Wiseacres.
Yeah.
Like wise guys, and they just said acres.
I guess.
That's a rough.
Just like an open mic night?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long? Do you have 5 minutes?
I think it was 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
then I didn't do it again for like I performed like maybe a couple times in college at like student coffee houses, but then I didn't really start pursuing it until I was like 26 and had graduated.
And you graduated with a degree in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any thought of I'm going to be a psychologist?
I did some like research work, but I really just majored in psychology because it was the only subject I found interesting, because you can directly apply all of it to
It is
your
fun.
life.
I
Yeah.
took AP Psych in high school.
Yeah.
And of any class I took in my whole life, it's always the one that I'm always like, I remember this thing from
Yeah.
AP Psych. It was so cool.
Yeah. And it's like directly relevant to like human behavior. You can kind of like notice it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have gone to college for that, I think.
I took child psychology because I was going to be a teacher.
Because of that role you read for.
And I remember nothing. I remember nothing from it. I remember no part of my brain retained anything in terms of like remembering child psychology.
I love like the marshmallow experiment, and then you read later that like they're all non-repeatable. They did. It was we had a psychologist on, and it was like there was some meta study recently, and it was like 2/3 of all the classic studies are bullshit. And you're like, well, what now? Now what do I do with my brain? It's all there.
I know.
So now I'm like, now I just don't, the bystander effect. I go, someone will call 911. Don't worry about it. Probably wasn't real. Probably was false.
Yeah.
You talk, you talk about anxiety, you talk about depression and all that stuff. And sometimes it's like, why do you think you would do stand-up where there's so much anxiety attached to it?
I mean, it's always been a weird line to me because I think it's like what I get out of stand-up is like I feel like I can connect with people in a way that sometimes I feel like I cannot in everyday life. Like I always feel like I'm kind of behind glass and like looking at everyone else existing in the world. And I think stand-up feels a little bit like a way to get around that feeling. But you're right. Like sometimes I am like, is this the worst thing I could do for my kind of brain? Because it is like so much, like I still get so nervous before sets and but like the highs and lows kind of even out. Like I feel like once you've done it long enough, you aren't like living and dying by every set the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the shock of a good set is like electrodes to my depression.
Sure.
I will be in a bad place, and if I have a good set, there is at least a moment where I'm like riding high.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
There's times in my life where it's like I should just somehow sneak away to do a 5 minutes somewhere, and I think I could come back to this party and be a blast.
Yeah.
And I just need to like feel some intense like you're doing well, you're good, you're funny, something.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
I know. I'm like picturing like you can live stream in the bathroom.
Sure. Well, some people would go, well, why don't you make the people you're talking to have a good time and then get that? And I'm like, it's not enough. I need them to stop the talking and I get the full setup and the punch.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
my God.
I know. Listen, that's why we're crazy. Do you ever? I mean, you talk so openly about like what medications you've taken, what kind of things. Is there any times you go like, God damn, maybe I shouldn't tell? There's so like sometimes like I talk about like my father and I like air dirty laundry of family stuff.
Yeah.
In a way that I get to because they don't pay attention, they don't care.
Yeah.
It's lucky.
Yeah.
And in a way, the person whose permission you have the most to just reveal everything is yourself.
Right.
And I think I was reading like, it's funny as sometimes I'll have guests on and I've made the mistake before where like they've talked about something publicly and I'm like, well, then it's fair game to go into.
Yeah.
And then and sometimes I'm like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But then like I read the New York Times from last year.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there. Do you ever go, do you ever go, do you like that everyone knows your full business, your full mental health struggles?
I guess for me, it just feels like not just that other people are going through similar things, but I'm just like, it doesn't feel shameful to me. Like, I don't know. I'm not like, oh no, now people know that like, I really was in a low for this period. Like, I guess it just feels to me like we're all like barely hanging on in so many ways. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
You talk, it was in the article about eating disorders.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's so interesting I've had a couple things on Instagram once in a while that they say you'd automatically they take it down. They go, you said this word or whatever.
Right.
And one of those is the words eating disorder.
Oh, really?
And it's like one of those moments where I go like, I don't think this is the right way for society to build.
Can't say that phrase. Yeah.
And I also don't think like, especially on Instagram where I'm like, I'll tell you what's encouraging the eating disorders, the picture part of this.
Yeah.
The picture part of this whole app. I think that's what it is.
I know, not the words eating disorder.
But it's the same with suicide. And like now I can't even tell if unalive yourself is even a progressive word or it's just because of TikTok or it's become mangled. But like there's a lot of people that I can't tell if and just the way that we talk about mental health.
Right.
Because these social media apps, which have utterly decimated
I know.
all of us.
I know.
Totally.
I
And now
know.
they're going to
And the
do this
world.
little action. It's infuriating.
Well, even like on shows where there's like, some storyline with suicide or suicide attempt. And then the end, there's just like the hotline. And like if someone is struggling,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is doing nothing.
Yeah.
I
Well, there was what was that funny example of someone was telling us? It was like an episode where there was like set in World War II, and there was like bombings and like things happening, and then but like Princess no no
it was The Crown.
It was The Crown, and it was later on, but there was like full on like bombings and things happening.
Yeah.
But then it was like someone had an eating disorder on the episode, so they had like the thing for the eating disorder at the end.
my.
But there was like all this like actual violence. And you're like, I don't know, like, like, yeah, that sucks that Princess Diana had an eating disorder, like, or something like that. Like, it was,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
maybe it
yeah.
wasn't her, but it was that kind of like.
I know it should have
idea.
been like if you're struggling or someone's struggling, and
Yeah.
then also war is bad.
War is bad.
Sure, that'd be
Yeah.
a fun trigger
War is
warning.
bad, just so you know.
Unless it's these 3 countries that we're currently helping
right.
fund.
Right.
But it's hard because I feel like even to talk about it suddenly you're too many trigger warnings these days.
Yeah.
No,
I
for
gotta
sure,
tell
yeah.
you, I it's one of the where I'm like I don't know who this is helping.
Yeah.
I'm doing a show on Dropout,
Yeah.
and like Dropout, every episode has a trigger warning thing, and
Oh.
sometimes it's like
Let's drop out.
flashing lights. It's what College Humor became.
Oh, okay.
I think it's coming out after my appearance, but it's more just a conversation. But every episode has like a trigger warning, and I want to meet if there's anyone
Yeah.
who read that trigger warning and said, oh, then no.
Right.
And I think always for me, I go, the things that trigger me are usually existential.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, where's my trigger warnings?
I think what's hard though is you're like a little bit like we're conditioned to it now, so you're just like I'm able to see it and be like whatever, and then like watch the show.
That's true. That's
Do you know what I mean?
true.
So
But
I'm
it
like,
also is
if
a
it does
signifier.
mean
Yes.
if it does mean something to someone,
Totally.
Yes,
Totally.
but
totally.
I think sometimes
it gives away spoilers.
no. I'm like, oh,
What? Oh.
does she have an eating disorder or just like a really good workout routine? We'll find out. She has a Peloton. And no, my problem with it is I feel like sometimes in progressive spaces, like let's say I want people to be swayed to progressive things.
Yeah.
Of course. That's how you win an election. We sometimes make markers right out the gate
Yeah.
that are an automatic, I would call it a virtue signaling type thing. And sometimes that virtue signaling will automatically deter someone who could be tricked, one might say, or just encouraged to just watch something or
Yes.
take something in. And instead we build a wall of kind of indicators you're entering a liberal land.
Oh,
and so
I
those
see.
people will
Okay.
not participate, and thus the division between not just 1 and 2, but everything becomes wider and wider
Yeah.
and wider.
Maybe we have a setting like you can like in the future where if you can want any of the trigger warnings, you can have like an on
Sure.
button.
And then they'll
Oh,
do a study
yeah.
and they'll say 99.99% of people turn off the trigger.
Oh, then?
Sure.
I think
And then
so.
it's an easy way of doing it.
yeah.
Sure. It's like a Google
Yeah.
image.
It's a good Google thing.
You know, when
like,
you're a teenager, you're like, Google images, safe search off.
yeah,
Safe search off.
Safe search
Spice Girls
on.
naked.
That 0.01% that wants safe search on.
Halle Berry swordfish, safe search off.
Yeah, I also feel like if you're, I don't know, like I remember like when I was struggling with an eating disorder, like you will kind of like go out of your way to like find the information you want to. Like
Yeah.
a trigger warning is not gonna stop you from like kind of like if you're already in that mindset, I just mean you're gonna kind of get the information you want.
I remember when I did like I think like workout culture is always fascinating because like P90X was like a workout thing
Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
And I feel like there was a lot of like, hey guys, you know, you're doing this, it's not just to lose weight or have a great body. You're doing it. They had to like couch all this language, and I wanted to be like at home in my head. I'm going, I'm doing it very specifically to look like that's why I'm doing it. And I feel like everyone's lying right now.
Yes,
we're not doing this workout for ourselves. I have a pull-up bar. I'm not doing pull-ups at 7 a.m. just for my own peace of mind. I'm doing it for shoulders. And there's just there starts becoming a thing where it just go like, I'm like, do any of us believe what we're saying?
Yeah.
But there was some book when I went through like my brief existential reading about philosophy phase in college. There's like some book about how free will is an illusion.
Oh, Sapolsky?
Maybe.
Okay. I think he's the guy who's like free will is not real.
Yeah. But apparently at the beginning of whatever this book was, he had what looking back would be called a trigger warning. That's not but he had like a forward saying, if you suffer from depression, I might recommend that you not read my book.
Okay.
And I thought I remember it because, and first of all, again, it did trigger me.
Yeah.
And B, I did read it anyway because that's not the existential angst. Is like, oh, well, just don't think about it.
Right.
Though that is kind of the solution.
I always think that with depression, where I like it is like I'm like I think we actually see the world more accurately.
Yeah.
And that's like maybe it's not a disorder. Maybe it's just like the gift of
what's
sight.
a disorder? But what is a disorder?
No, exactly.
It's just like
it's like you're not in line with what we've decided.
If the goal is to smile more than frown throughout the day, then it's a disorder.
Yes.
If the goal is purely survival, then probably it's better to be that neurotic. To be the one. What's in that bush? I went through like mine was like an existential anxiety OCD type thing in college, and it was just like that's all I could think about was what happens when you die. Yeah, crazy. And I do think part of the solution was literally just to stop thinking about it. Right. Like sometimes if I'm high, especially, and it goes there, I just go and I truly that's the only because there's no like logical pulling it back. Right. It is dark. It is fucked up.
I know. And especially if you're neurotic, you're like, I'll fix it. I'll get to the end of it and then I'll fix the thought. But sometimes it doesn't go anywhere good. It just keeps branching out into more spirals.
And I think when I was in college, I was just so desperate for like I thought there would be a piece of proof that would put the fire out. And it was like, there's not. There's not.
No, nothing out there.
Ayahuasca, maybe.
I don't know.
Someday.
For one night only.
For one night only.
Or not.
Or not.
Or you find nothing and then it's really.
Oh, God.
God, what I'd do to have just one religious experience. That's all I want. Just one piece of proof that God exists. Is that too much to ask for?
No.
I feel we'll see in that you don't have that, but maybe you have it with comedy. But I feel like if I go to a really great concert, that's like my like closest I can feel to what people who have religion and feel close to something.
Sure.
I'm like, I think that's probably along the lines of how it feels.
Do you ever think about what song or songs or artist you would want to play as you're fading into death?
I mean, I know what I'd put like I could put a playlist together now of different things, but it would take me a long time, and I would like to think that there's still things I haven't heard. I get sad sometimes about thinking about dying in the way that you're not gonna hear music. Like you're not gonna. There's so much music you'll miss. That bums me out. That's like when I get existential. I'll be like,
would it include any tracks from my 2020 special, Shelf Life?
Definitely.
It's so jarring when you're listening to a playlist and there's suddenly a comedy set comes
clip.
In. Like,
let me tell you about COVID in 2021.
I have that thing on my iPhone where I have bought like 2 albums, but I don't use the iTunes music. But sometimes I press pause or whatever, and it plays that automatically.
Yes.
And it's Jay Jordan's album. I hear like 3 seconds of Jay Jordan's album all the time.
That's
really
so
funny.
I know. I feel like someone that happened to them on a road trip where they were like with friends.
Oh,
and
yeah?
it, like started playing a clip from their special.
From
and they
their
were like,
own special. Oh my
I
god!
I once
It's like their most listened to things from 2023. And you're like, oh man, I don't know how that got in there.
when I was first getting into stand up, I was listening to a lot of albums, and at some point I was gonna make a sex playlist, and I put like 2 John Legend songs in, and then I
You're
accidentally
like, that's enough.
you're like, that should cover
That
it.
should cover it.
It's 8
All
minutes.
set. That's the start, the middle, and the end.
and then one day I think I put it on, and I guess I somehow accidentally put a whole Pete Holmes album onto this.
Oh my god,
That is
so.
So
What did I
Freudian.
found out? What did I
Did
found
you
out? Like
tell
that's
him when you went on his
no,
podcast?
but
You
that's how I found out that like
Oh
that's how I
my-
last longer. I have to put on Pete Holmes.
That's so funny.
Oh my god.
That's your baseball or whatever.
Yeah, that was always the thing. They say baseball, and I was like,
I
that's.
never really understood that.
It was a time where that's what were the guys into baseball.
Right.
That first of all, that certainly wasn't enough. My mental thing was always like grandparent dying. Like
No,
I had to
that's
go.
what
I had
I
to go
would
like
always-
fucking
Right.
brutal.
I would always think it would be like, think about something really upsetting.
It's crazy as opposed to like, let's talk about breathing and maybe like let's confront anxiety. It's like baseball.
Yeah.
Just think about baseball, kid. God, brutal. So how's depression now?
It's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm managing. I think I've sort of just come around to like learning that my brain just operates in cycles, and it's like I'm gonna have weeks that kind of suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now it's a little bit less like, oh no, I'm gonna be depressed forever, like when it comes on.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It's so hard. The anxiety, depression, like knowing that it is a cycle, and you're like, I'm going to be anxious, and,
Right.
and that eventually goes away. And even when you're in it, you know that that's going to happen. But it's like
Oh,
every
it's
time it feels
still-
like,
yeah.
when is it going?
And I have
Yeah.
the, I have
Am
the
I
opposite.
dying right now?
When I'm
Yeah,
feeling good,
yeah.
I always go like, why
It's
do you feel
coming.
bad ever?
Oh,
I
Why do you ever feel
know, I
bad? Like, what if you
know.
just were cool?
what if you just were like this?
You're just like this. I have a good conversation. I'm like, what if you did this with everyone you talk to throughout your whole life? How fun would it be?
I know. Whenever I feel good, I'm sort of like, why do I go to therapy? I've never needed this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? Look at the receipts.
I think I was seeing a therapist for a long time, and then it faded to like we did twice a month.
Yeah.
And we never came back after Zoom in person.
Oh, okay.
Which was it just felt, and I always said it's worse over Zoom, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it just, the idea of going up to the Upper West Side for this hour once a week just felt
Oh,
just
yeah.
incredibly impossible. And then it was like, I don't know. I think we're done. I think we haven't like talked in like, we
Yeah.
had breaks, and I went to Australia,
Yeah.
and it was kind of an open door to come back. And I'm like, I think we ran our course.
Yeah. I think that's a real thing.
Yeah, but it's weird.
Does it feel like
You'll have to find another
you're
one, you're
lacking
saying.
closure or something? Or does it feel weird just not
Definitely,
to have a therapist?
it's like a person, and I've had a couple people in my life. They were like, I can think of an like 2 acting teachers where it just faded away, but they were a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
And you go like, will I, especially with a therapist, because there's such a, I don't know a lot about my therapist.
Right.
I always was really, I never Googled, I never did any. I'm able to really like go like, no, I'm not looking into that. I don't know if they wrote a book. I don't know if they
Right.
if they like something, because I don't want to find out.
Yeah.
Get this.
Trump supporter.
Get this. Our there's a therapist involved in my life, not this therapist, a different one.
Yeah.
Maybe sees 2 people at the same time,
Oh.
where we get like the bottom of their email signature or whatever lists like,
Oh no.
hey, here's what so and so's watching this week, or here's like
What?
here's a like little like updates on the staff, and I'm like,
Wait,
Wait,
Like-
I thought you were going to say patients, other patients. Here's what this patient's doing. Here's what this. I was like, you can't do that.
here's what Aparna's trying this week. Let's see how it
Here's where
goes.
Gianmarco's performing this
Yeah.
week. If anyone wants to catch him,
I'd be fine with that. No, it's about like the staff itself. Like here's
Right,
where,
right.
here's what
Oh.
so-and-so was, what they're binge watching.
That's
And
bizarre.
it's like, I'm like, I do not want
To
to
know.
know. Because God
No.
forbid they
Because
go
it's like,
like,
a bad TV show, and you're like, I don't like.
Be like-
You could be like, I don't respect you. You know?
yeah, I'm trying to go. I'm so bad at coming with fake names. I'm trying to come with fake name, and all that comes to my head is the
Renee,
actual name.
Renee.
Yeah.
Renee.
Renee.
It's like Renee's been catching up on Kill Tony this week, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no,
What?
it's not true.
Okay.
But I'm saying like I don't want to know any of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to
no.
know any of it.
Also, who is that for?
I don't know.
You're not like a video.
You're not a
store.
company.
Like, what are you talking about?
But that kind
I
of
know to like staff picks at a
Yeah,
therapist's
staff
office and be
picks.
like, this person really loves Zola.
Yeah. Like some medications.
or God forbid for me if it says anything astrology, I'm out.
Oh,
I'm out.
Sure.
I'm not putting you in.
Yeah.
I can't.
We gotta
I
have an
can't.
astrologist on at some point.
No,
'Cause
we
I
already
hate it so
tried it.
much.
We tried having
You
a
should have a recovering astrologist on.
yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yes, like an astrologist who read one book.
Yeah.
We tried having a psychic.
You did.
We tried having a psychic on one, and I learned the lesson, which I think is an important interviewer lesson that I thought it would be fun that I said, oh, you can't politely, humorously undermine someone's entire
No.
thing.
No.
No, you just gotta go with it.
Yeah, Russell walked away. He said, I think that's real.
Hey,
I
I'm an
think
open.
that's real.
I'm an open. Listen, I could be nice to an astrologer. I don't know anything. You know,
Mhm.
I don't have the answers. I understand why you get frustrated with people that claim to know everything,
Right,
but it
right.
doesn't bother me that way.
Because there's just so I don't like it.
Sometimes I think of like psychics and tarot readers. Like I think it's just people wanting. I mean, I think it is sometimes people just like I don't want to go to therapy, but I want someone to kind of help bounce my life off. Of.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And well, let me just say this: like, as I've always like been proponent of therapy, of course.
Yeah.
And that's also the culture I grew up in.
Yeah.
But with the advent of online therapy and the way that I hear people like finding their therapist or their relationship with their therapist, or even this thing that I'm talking about with the email thing,
Yeah.
which I think is born of the online world and the way that
Yes.
the reason I think that's there is because just like following a creator you like online and you need to know a little of their life to become attached, to become a buyer.
Oh.
Like that's what the internet does.
Yes.
Is it makes everything so impersonal in a way that you also have to like just add little incentives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, the quality of therapy in my mind has had to have become diluted. People have
Yeah.
never seen a therapist in person
I know.
ever.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
No, it's not.
And I go, as therapy lowers, seeing your astrologer who goes like, oh, you're feeling sad, let's talk. Like it all starts becoming, you need an hour to talk to someone who is paid to listen to you,
Yeah.
but isn't a part of your life and can be objective. But we lose any semblance of qualification.
Mm.
And then it becomes just another that's why I don't like when someone becomes a life coach or an astrologer. I go, I understand this is tough to like what qualifies
Yeah.
to be a therapist. This is
Yeah.
a soft science.
Yeah.
But just because it's soft doesn't mean you give up on any kind of training, or you just go, well, astrology is therapy. I go, no,
Yeah.
it's not, because that person didn't at least look at some studies or at least discuss it with someone
Yeah.
older. And I hate it, man. And
What if people like astrology and they go to therapy?
Yeah.
but ultimately it's
I
who
think people
who runs astrology? Who is running the
Who
astrology?
runs it?
Yes.
What do you mean? Who
Who runs it? Who runs it? So
Like,
so
you
where
want
do you
it-
get your information
you
from
want
for
a
the astrology?
union.
You
want
want
a
a
union?
union?
Everyone in astrology isn't just looking up at the sky; they're going to sources.
Okay.
Okay, and who runs those sources?
I don't
Scam
know.
artists. Scam artists.
I think that's a very cynical way of looking at. I think. Listen.
no. Tell me
I think that.
who
people-
runs it?
I don't think that everyone is basing their whole life around
Right,
astrology.
right.
I think some people just like a little thing, and that's fine.
And what's that thing?
I'm
I
just
think
saying,
it is,
like
it's
like
very soft religion.
yeah. I think I understand what you're saying. I understand.
Sure,
if
and
people
I guess
are
what?
looking
Not
at
a
it-
big fan.
No,
not
yeah.
a big
I
fan.
want-
That's
I understand
fair,
if you're
that's
saying
fair.
like people are like making huge life decisions, or they're like, well, I can't do that today because of this
And they
astrology thing. I don't think everyone is, though.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan's
Oh, that's
Nancy
true.
Reagan
That
brought
I-
an astrologer in, and that astrologer was involved in major global decisions.
I think that there's examples of bad things in everything. Like I'm just saying.
I know, but why even
Your
encourage?
specific beef with astrology is so intense, and I'm just saying.
Because
I think some
it's
people
so
look at it
socially acceptable,
and they're like,
and it's just poison. It's poison.
It's
and
poison.
when during COVID and during the vaccines, to hear, the liberal world was saying get the vaccine. And then at the same time, you're talking about astrology. I go, well, you can't tell people to follow the science when you take your marching orders from the moon. Do you know what I mean? These are.
I think of the people in my life that are into astrology.
Is science important?
And
is science important?
They got the
Is
vaccine.
science important?
Yes.
Yes.
Is science important?
Yes.
Okay.
Astrology is
Science.
science. It's in the moon. I'm just being
Let's go
devil's
on to
advocate to
our-
make you mad. But I'm just saying, I think some people have a very fine relationship with it where it's not dictating their life.
Sure, and I'm sure some people have.
And I would say I would push back in that I don't think the scientific establishment is free of their own problems.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's some people who, guess what, also like Scientology in a way that's like, it's just like, it's kind of a guiding system, but it contributes to the Scientology complex.
Well, I don't
and
know any
believe you-
astrologers who are kidnapping Shelley Miscavige or whatever her name is.
Not yet. But if people like you keep allowing this shit to be socially
People like
acceptable,
me.
they'll get there. They'll get there. Believe you me. Let's go to the next one. This has got to stop.
This has got to stop.
This has got to stop. This is a time that something that needs to go away. That's bothering us. Big, small, personal, broad. Russell, do you have this has got to stop?
Yeah, this got to stop. People in the comments sometimes pointing out, oh, the people say the word like a lot. Shut up. Like, you try talking for hours on end, for episodes on end, and not having a little thing come out. It's so annoying because the people doing it, they're not having to talk this much, and so now I'm very hyper conscious of not saying the word like.
It's the most you've ever gone without saying like.
But it's very frustrating. It feels like an old 90s thing, like a grandma would say, like, oh,
Yes,
kids say
yes.
like too much. Shut up. Like, shut up. Anyways, I noticed it twice this week, and it was driving me nuts because it's like from a comment with a no face thing, and it just annoys me. It's a small thing, and it'll sometimes be a funny clip, and I don't know how you took that out of it. Is that
it's a real
Right.
sourpuss thing to go
it's
out of
just
your
a
way.
really
It
sourpuss
is.
thing?
But
to
I
do.
do think it'd be funny if an episode coming up when it's really egregious on your part that I have a counter in the corner
No,
of the screen.
Oh, my fancy. It wasn't just me. I think it was all of us.
It was
But
just you and me episode. So
yeah.
yes, I agree. I mean, what are you gonna do? Enough comments saying I thought it was Tim Dillon. We don't
Come
know
on.
more.
Every comment. I thought that was Tim Dillon.
Oh,
it's every
my.
comment. Great episode. I thought
Great
that was
episode. I
Tim
thought
Dillon.
that was Tim Dillon.
What?
I do look like Tim Dillon, but I'm not. And so we can all move past. I mean, I think that's hopefully it's new listeners, new people when they say that. It's not like
the
they're just
same
tricked every
guy
time. They're
every
like,
week.
whoa, I thought that was Tim Dillon.
I'm sure they go in immediately and you're like, astrology is actually kind of nice. And they're like, that's not Tim Dillon. That's not Tim Dillon. Okay.
Oh, I had one more. When people, this guy stopped. When people try to make you guess someone's age, and they'll be like, "You'll never believe how old she is," because there's no right answer to it.
No.
I'm never that surprised.
No.
I could see someone that's 50. That they're actually 35. That's not that surprising to me. Sometimes it's like, she's 82. And in my head, I'm like, I thought she was 68. Okay. Like it's never that surprising to me. We've lived all long
Yes.
enough where we've seen crazy
Yes.
things. And you're never going to get as big enough reaction from me as I think
No.
you want and need. And so I don't like that guessing game of guess how old they are. And it's just never that fun.
Yeah.
Because then if you guess wrong too, there's pressure of
Oh,
like, you did it wrong.
yeah.
And
Well, that reminds me. Once I was with my dad, and he was still like, he basically like some woman flirted with him, or he was sent his card to her table or whatever. It was one of these things where I'm like, I'm
Oh
here,
my
guys. I'm here.
gosh.
I'm
Oh
the
my
son.
gosh.
And I was like 16, and this woman, she was like attractive, and she came over, and my dad and her are like talking and flirting, and she said something to me like, guess how old do you think I am, to me? And I said like, as I thought I was being cutesy. I remember I was 16. I was like, you're 18. And she goes, you can't guess that low and have it be flatter. Like, she chastised my like jokey answer for being like not.
Wait,
it was
what
like,
was she?
she was probably like 35, but I was just trying to be like,
Yeah.
like 18. And she was like, that's too low to be flattering. And I was like, I'm dying.
I'm a
here.
child.
I'm
I'm
a
a
child.
child.
I'm younger than
Ma'am,
the age
I'm
that
a
I
child.
said. I'm younger than the age that I said. And it really, I never would hit on someone I had just met in any capacity. And I think part of it is witnessing my dad do it.
Oh yeah, it's wild.
It is
I
wild.
was with Chris once. We have a friend, and he like, I was talking to two women. He comes over, he's like, who are these two gorgeous ladies over here? And I was like, I'm gonna kill myself. Why would
Oh my god.
I was like, that's
Oh
so
my
weird.
God.
What world are you living in? You've lived in New York. We don't talk like that here. I don't know what culture you're coming
Where
from.
was
We don't
this?
talk. It was at the pit.
The pit.
It was at the pit.
No.
Can you imagine? There were two lovely women at the pit. It was crazy. And it was,
Oh my god! Something about it being at the pit just takes it to
Really?
another.
You can smell it. You can smell that.
I'm like, now you need the clown's prayer.
Well,
have you been to the new space?
No,
Oh my God. So they turned the attic upstairs, you know, that little space?
I think so.
So they changed it into this like a Playboy swanky lounge, and they call it the Lenny Bruce room.
No!
Can you imagine who sees that and goes, Lenny Bruce would have loved it here at this tiny space?
Listen, we love asylum.
But let me tell you, I was in Ireland. You know that statue that got them in trouble?
Oh, I don't know if it got them in trouble. They had it for a long time.
I don't think
Remember
I
the red
do.
statue, and it was like,
They had like
an
a-
Asian man bowing at the
Oh.
entrance.
At the pit, right when you walked in.
Yes,
I saw it in Ireland
yes.
I saw it in Ireland outside of a random furniture store. And I was like, is this the same one?
Did someone from Ireland buy
It was the
Over.
same statue. It was the same statue. I'm like, when
Oh.
were these masks made? What was it for?
Oh man.
My this has got to stop. I'll keep it quick. My this has got to stop. Yoga teachers, they get 2 blocks, and I go, we're going to use the blocks for one move, and then you're going to have me wipe them down. I understand that you spent too much money on blocks, and you have all these blocks, and you barely needed them, and you all bought them for some reason. I don't need the blocks.
Yeah.
You don't need to bring them to me. If I have to wipe it down, forget about it. I don't need them. I don't need them for the one move. I'll just tent my hands like this. I don't need the blocks. Enough.
Yeah, especially for one move.
Yeah, they always like, well, you could use the blocks. I'm like, I'm not going to use the blocks
Yeah,
for this. I've
no.
been doing yoga a long time,
Yeah.
okay?
Hey, that's
Who started this yoga blocks bracket?
Yeah. Do you have this kind of stuff?
I do. I have a short one. I have tricky ads, like when you see a cool mural, and then in the corner it says Chase Bank, really small.
yeah.
Really?
I hate that. I feel tricked.
Where you don't
I'm
know.
glad the artist was paid, because it is usually like an artist who
Sure.
made it, but then I don't know, something about the corporate branding. I'm like, can't you just let them have the mural?
Yeah, our
Sure.
friend Douglas has a sketch that he wrote about that kind of thing with Toyota commercials, where it's like during the Olympics, horrible, like a story about an amputee.
Oh, yes.
and you're like,
Yes.
what's happening? And it's so sad. In the end, it just comes and it says Toyota, and you're like, how does that relate to
And
that?
also,
that
why would that
video?
make me want to buy a car?
Yeah,
But here's the question, is that like, it must work in
No, it
some
must
capacity.
work. It must be some
it-
sort of psychology thing.
Especially with cars, it's like, there's ads that intend for you to buy something right now.
Yeah.
And then there's like an ad and a general brand that over the course of your 40-year life, they hope
Sure.
you get one car.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to be like, is juxtapositioning Martin Luther King speaking with Volvo like
Yeah.
one day? I'll be thinking about Volvo, and I'm
probably.
like, that's a noble car.
Yes.
And
yeah.
and same with the Chase Bank, because I'm like, well, who would see this and see that in the corner and go, I should switch banks.
It's hard because the finding the right balance in an ad is so tricky because either you're feeling like you're being manipulated, or the other tactic is sometimes they take is like, you know how we're all pieces of shit,
Right.
and you're like, you don't want to see anyone today, right? And like, you don't want to leave your house, you hate people, and it's like trying to get you to agree that we're all like lazy,
that's like all
mean
the
pieces
What is
of
that
shit.
for? What do you mean?
No,
I
well,
see
like
on the
all
subway.
this-
On the subway,
yeah.
it's like don't leave your house. Seamless. Don't
yeah,
deal with
yeah.
people. You hate people. You know you're ordering your food from home because
Yeah.
you fucking hate your life. It's that kind of
yeah.
thing.
It's like-
seamless. And you're like, I don't know. I thought I liked people. You know.
Yeah. It's like weird negging almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate that too.
Yeah, all the ways
Don't
are
speak
bad.
for me. Don't speak for me.
And I wonder if there's any like they found which are more effective, because I think, Gianmarco, what you're saying with like I think it is like just the weird. They're just trying to create vague associations in your mind that you like internalize.
But part of me goes like, you think you're doing that, but there's no way this is lasting.
No.
Maybe I'm
But,
wrong though.
yeah.
It's subconscious. Something I learned about my AP Psych class.
Oh yeah.
It was probably false. Let's go to our final segment.
You better count your blessings.
You better count your blessing. I don't know if I remember to add a blessing. But I'll go. The English Teacher.
Is your
It's
blessing?
a really good show.
Wow.
I think I can use it to
it's a
recommend
new
things sometimes.
show.
Have you heard about the show?
I saw an ad
It's good.
for it.
It's really good. It's hard funny, super jokey,
Oh.
and it's like I think it does such a good job of talking about like the world trying to be, it's the teacher perspective, like trying to be progressive, but also the impossibility of doing it at a school in a way that it feels like it's like commenting on all sorts of, I hate to use the word woke, and then sometimes I don't know how to like capture what it is I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I mean like the liberal last 10 years. And the overcorrection and the undercorrection and the kind of things that don't really mesh together. And like I feel like it does such a good job where there's not one moment of preachy, not a moment of it. But at the same time, there's not a moment of like, well, this is stupid or like, or, you know, what I would consider the Joe Rogan side of it all. But it feels like it is just edgy, sharp, kind of really like, oh my God, comedy that just lives in it. That just lives in it. And it's so good.
That's very good.
And it's been so long since I found a comedy that I'm like, that I'm watching the day it comes out. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see.
Wow.
And a comedy, as opposed to like Succession or White Lotus, which are very funny, but I don't consider them like just comedy.
No.
So the English Teacher or BoJack, if you haven't seen it. I mean, talk about an existential show. Dear God, if I had seen BoJack at the different time of my life, the way that they talk about death is brutal. Did you end up watching it?
I need to rewatch it. Because I feel like there's so much there.
Man, it goes into death and it's so fucked up. BoJack never. The shows that I love the most are the ones that never give you the happy ending.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I always go like, I wish they'd just given me the happy ending. But that's why I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, what a cool. It's a cool thing to be. I understand like the weird separation of being a voiceover actor in it.
Yes.
But to me, it's just like one of those shows that I think is like will be in the top 50 animations for all time.
I know.
You don't watch cartoons.
I've got to see it.
You don't watch cartoons.
I know I don't.
You don't watch them.
This is the one that people talk about the most.
People who don't.
What if they do a live action reboot?
Oh my God! But,
You know,
but
I love
only if
a
it's like Lion King style,
I
where
love-
it's just.
I love a reboot. All reboots have always been good. Anytime it's rebooted, I'm like, yes, that's gonna work.
Historically can only go
It's
up.
gonna work.
Yeah.
It's gonna get better.
That whale character, it's a full anatomically correct whale with all the emotions. That Lion King thing, I've never watched it, but
I
seeing the
didn't
little
either,
clips,
but-
I was like, this looks
I didn't
so.
know what the point was. This is animated again.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
I
And also, just
know.
animals aren't fun like that. Like that was the point of the cartoon. They got to dance and
Yeah.
smile. That's not what animals do.
Yeah.
Terrible.
But then were all the actors like in sound boots, or was it like Ian McKellen where it's like tennis ball?
I think it was all
I
sound
think
booths, and you
sound
could
booth.
feel it.
I don't
And
think
also-
that their faces were involved.
Okay.
And there's one of those where it was every celebrity, and I go, why? I can hear that the zebra's Beyonce. Like I don't need. I don't.
No, she had a
who
better
did she?
part
I
than
think.
that.
Yeah. She imagine it's
wasn't a
like
zebra.
like and
Zebra
the
number
2-line
two.
zebra is
Zebra number
Beyonce.
2 is Beyonce.
No, should have given it to her sister, but she was. I think she was Nala,
Yeah, yeah,
Had to
or-
have
been.
yeah,
Had
yeah,
to have
yeah,
been.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then it was like, was James
John
Earl Jones
Oliver-
probably
John
played
Oliver-
himself,
I think so.
John
Yeah.
Oliver was like the bird.
Zazu.
Yes.
and I'm like, that's John Oliver.
Yeah,
And when did
voice
Zazu
acting.
have such progressive politics shoving it down my throat? We have a friend who does a John Oliver impression, and we give him a hard time for it not being his best impression.
Oh,
I don't give him a hard time for it.
I give him a hard time for it.
You give him a hard
It's
time
pretty
for
funny.
Impressions, they're hard.
They're hard.
Okay, you know what? You're gonna roll your eyes at my blessing, but we're right in between summer and fall, and I love this weather. I do love
I really
when the
love
windows are open, but it's sometimes you gotta close them a little because it's getting a little chilly. But it's nice, and you don't got to turn that heat on quite yet. And it's the perfect New York City weather. I love this weather.
Well, as a quick reminder, this is coming out October 29th, so that does not apply to our listeners' environment at the moment. But yes, I
Yes.
agree. I love.
it will still be fall. It might not be window
It'll be
open,
cold, I
but
think,
yeah,
by
yeah.
then.
I like t-shirt walking to the venue. A
Oh.
light
Little
jacket
light
on the way
jacket
out.
on the way
Yes.
home.
Yeah.
That's true.
I like it. Until you forget your jacket and it's warm, and then you left your jacket
Yeah.
because you didn't remember. Do you have a blessing?
My blessing is when people end the conversation or hang for me, because I'm really bad at ending things, especially like if I get coffee with a friend. Like I never know when to call it without being
Yes.
rude. And I
Mhm.
feel like I have friends who are really good at being like, okay, well, let's get going.
Yeah.
Whenever I do it, I always get scared that I was rude
Yes,
about it.
exactly.
That I just said,
That
and I'm
like,
done
well,
with this.
yeah,
If I have to do one more second of this, I'm going to kill myself.
Exactly.
So I'm going to just turn away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Even at parties, I'm really bad at leaving because I don't want to say bye to everyone. So I'll sort of like attach myself to someone else leaving and kind of sneak out with them.
You'd just be like, well, they're going.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so do I.
They're not my ride, but I do feel in line with their values right now.
So this is coming out October 29th. I know, guys. I know we're a little ahead.
I know.
We'll get back to it. What do you want me to do? Want me to cancel today?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you do anything you want to plug?
I think the Great North on Fox, we're still season 4. New episodes on Sundays.
Yes, watch that. What about your book? You still hawking it?
I mean, it's out there.
What's it called?
Unreliable Narrator is my book.
I was at Vermont Comedy Club, and they had that there. They have a
nice.
bookshelf of like
Yeah.
every comic
It's really nice.
book in the world.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. Do you have any thing to plug?
Follow me on Instagram at Russell J. Daniels.
Look at you.
And
I'm
look
proud
at
of you.
I have the date. Uncle Function has a show for New York Comedy Fest Saturday, November 16th at UCB, the new UCB. Saturday, November 16th, UCB. Uncle Function. Get those tickets.
This weekend, I will be at Raleigh, North Carolina. Good nights. Then the weekend after that, Bloomington, Indiana. Weekend after that, Indianapolis. Weekend after that, Washington, D.C. And the weekend after that, Lexington, Kentucky. Oh, man. I did too much. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside
Yeah.
bonus episodes, and subscribe to the Spotify. Even if you watch, help us get those ads. And I don't want to end it.
You have to. end
This is
it.
what I'm
Can you end
saying.
it?
Ending things is hard.
Can you do it?
That's our show. Thanks for watching.
This is the downside.
1, 2, 3. You're listening to The Downside
The downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.